Hello guys, and welcome to a new Steel Division video today by me, Vulcan. Today I have for you game 2 out of 2 games between TheKnifeGuy and Yurilove in round 3 of the second European tournament. In the first game, Yurilove came out swinging with the Guards Armoured and the Cromwell 7 that could against TheKnifeGuy's 116th. Couldn't quite get the Panzer 3s to get the job done. It was obviously very frustrating for him. A lot of bounces on those Cromwells, and something that did ultimately lead to his demise. This time around though, we are seeing Colleville, and on the Allied side we have the 1st Pancerna under the command of TheKnifeGuy, and on the Axis side, Yurilove is using the 716th Infantry. So these are a division, or a couple of divisions that don't really match up too well. The 1st Pancerna definitely has a distinct advantage against the 716th, and that mainly comes down to the use of Hurricanes and the Cromwells in order to counter fire support weapons that the 716th rely upon. So already going into this, Yurilove is in a tough position. However, there aren't ways for him to win, and it is decent use of Pak 40s and Flak 88s, like 1,200 meter range AP vehicles, are definitely something that will help him out. Using B2s at close range versus things like the Cromwells and the Staghounds will also work. But other than that, a lot of his infantry is just going to be fodder. A lot of the IG-18s and other support weapons will also be probably fodder to either airstrikes or ground vehicles. Over on the side of the TheKnifeGuy, you do of course have Cromwell 7s, or not Cromwell 7s, sorry, Cromwell 6s and Cromwell 5s. And then you also have Stuarts if you use them, and then obviously the Hurricanes is really something that the 1st Pancerna is well known for. They have an abundance of cheap infantry to support those tanks, so that is a good way to sort of push on through and reveal the enemy forces as you advance. Now on this map, the 1st Pancerna can basically choose wherever it wants to go, but the 716th will probably want to focus more on the bottom side so that it can exploit the closer ranges and ambush potential. So the AT guns, for example, won't want to be ever spotted until they have a kill shot, basically, because if they are spotted beforehand, then the fire support of the 1st Pancerna can take them out quite easily. So down on this bottom side where there's these orchards, you can hide, for example, an AT gun behind here and then have it just roll into the tree line to shoot whatever's on this road or further down as and when you need to, so that you don't have that revealed beforehand. And that's something I'd like to see on the side of Yuri. But let's have a look at some of the units going down. On the bottom side here, we have a Staghound for the TheKnifeGuy with a Stuart 5, the Cromwell 5, the command carrier with the command infantry. There's going to be a unit of Dragoni with 2 units of Streltsy. Streltsy for the mid and top side. So the TheKnifeGuy going to be going for either a strong mid or strong bot side push. It's hard to tell because the deployment road does rely on you placing them further up, whereas if you place them further down, then it's not as fast. Either way, over on the side of Yurilove, we have an AT gun to start. Then you've got the command, and that's going to be the Panzergunführer. Then you've got some Osttruppen in here with a couple of Panzerschrecks and another AT gun there with some more Osttruppen at the back. So it's actually 2 commands with 2 AT guns, so it looks like that's going to be spread out between the top and mid. And there's a Osttruppen probably just going to try and secure some ground in the middle side, and then we do see the Panzer B2 on the bottom side, supported by 3 units of Osttruppen, the command infantry, and a Panzerschreck. Now these Panzerschrecks, they definitely can be very effective in these sort of closer range engagements between these hedgerows, because it's quite easy to hide them in the orchards due to their very high stealth, and that's something that Yurilove could definitely exploit throughout the game. But let me just speed this up briefly so that we can get this one underway, as the deployment has taken quite a while. And off we go. An Ulster is going to be brought in at the start for the TheKnifeGuy. So he is going to be looking specifically for static defenses with this Ulster, so that he does not get ambushed by those AT guns that I mentioned, which could potentially be hiding in the orchards and so on. So this is a really smart move, especially if he's going to try and focus on this bottom side, which it looks like he's going to try and do. He does have a very long fast move command with unload at position all the way back here. I don't think that's going to quite work out, but either way, Yurilove going to be spreading out his infantry and so on this bottom side with the Panzer B2 there. Pack 37s getting themselves into position. However, once again, you want to be behind the tree line, not necessarily in the tree line. I guess it doesn't really matter against a recon aircraft, so probably keeping them in the tree line at that point is probably better. But here comes the Staghound. That's just zooming ahead, maybe trying to cut off some of the units that will be coming up the road. That's going to be the Osttruppen revealing themselves as they start to engage some of the infantry there, the Streltsy. They're going to be pinned down though very quickly, and there's no command nearby, so that's going to be more or less an instant surrender. Job done. The knife guy finds himself a nice salient in the mid early on. A very nice sort of decision to push into the mid here. I don't think that's something Yurilove was necessarily relying upon. Well, obviously not if there was only one Osttruppen there. But it's not the end of the world. If this B2 can do some work against some of these vehicles, then he should be okay. But it's going to be very dependent on whether or not this Cromwell 5 can get a one-shot kill. It does actually get the driver wounded with the first shot, which is definitely going to negatively affect the morale of the B2. And the B2 is definitely in trouble. Hurricane Mark 4 came in with a strafing run as well. So this B2, it's only a matter of time really till it goes down. Now the Stuart 5 is being fast moved forwards to give it more penetration at closer range. The Cromwell 5 doesn't necessarily need it, but surprised it hasn't found the kill yet due to its 2-star veterancy. There we go. Finally, the Stuart 5 does the job. I think that is the tank that found the kill shot. That closer range definitely helping out. Now on this bottom side, Osttruppen are continuing to run forwards. Looks like Yurilove's going to try and take advantage of this and just try and move forwards as much as he can to gain a little bit of ground. To counteract the play that the knife guy is making here, but the concentration of units from the knife guy is actually quite telling, and honestly like a little push onto the top side may be the case instead for Yuri. But there's going to be 3 units of Streltsy versus 3 units of Osttruppen, so that top side push is just not quite going to work. It would require probably a B2 if it wanted to push on through, and well, the B2 is going to have to come into the bottom side due to the armor that has been brought in here. So these Osttruppen, they've been dealt with. The M5 half-track going to be running those down. 1 unit of Osttruppen has made it quite far, but probably not for long as the Staghound is zooming down that road. The Grenfjord is going to have to back off, and Flak 36 has been brought in to get rid of this recon information that the knife guy has been relying upon. May also negate the use of the Hurricane Mark IV for the time being, which will help the B2 survive a little bit longer against these tanks. However, at this sort of range, the B2 is definitely not in a good place against the Cromwell 5, but the driver knockout is a good start. He does have just enough penetration to find a kill, but if he does, it would be incredibly lucky. So Yuri here would probably want to back off with this B2, get behind a house here for example, zoom down to the bottom side, and then try and use the close range engagement. Obviously the knife guy has got this sorted with a Dragoni squad in this position. It's very smart because if any units try and utilize this road to get close range engagements onto the Cromwell 5, Stuart 5 or Staghound, then he can have a peek at there, try and have a go. And even if it misses, it will cause some morale penalties, which will of course allow the vehicles on the knife guy's side to engage better. So Osttruppen just been cut off. The knife guy doesn't actually have to go and deal with those if they are cut off. So just going to be advancing with the Streltsy, with the Staghound. The B2 is going to be having a go at the Stuart 5. Now on the top side, Hurricane Mark IV is exploiting the absence of an AA to just strafe these Osttruppen and prevent them from moving on to the Streltsy. So Yuri is in a pretty tough position. It doesn't get much better from here unless he brings in like an 88 and it can start one-shotting some of the vehicles that the knife guy is very much reliant upon. Other things like the B2s, they really need to start to perform. Like get a command in with that B2, for example, and then push for the close range engagements. That's another way that it could be done, especially with these Staghounds and Stuarts like all tucked behind this tree line. This gives the opportunity for the B2 to almost fast move closer, so that if any units come around the corner, it can have a go. But it is very RNG based at that moment. So I think Yuri's just kind of trying to play it safe at the moment, wait until he has a bit more to work with, and then can maybe go for that play. Never mind, going to be moving forwards with the Ostrupen in front, trying to prevent, I guess, things like these Dragoni from getting up close and personal with the B2. Dragoni has been brought into the top side to make a little bit of a push, has found the Panzerschreck there. Panzerschreck does find itself hidden once again, but in general, that Panzerschreck not going to be really very useful on the top side if no vehicles are pushing in that direction, but this engagement is going to happen. The Cromwell 5 coming around the corner, the Stuart 5 and the Staghound already quite badly pinned by the 5 of the B2. The fact they're all clumped up here is definitely not working out too well for the TheKnifeGuy, but there should be just enough firepower to stop this B2 from pushing all of these back before the same happens to the TheKnifeGuy. So there we go, the B2 is going to have to fall back. It is going to just be able to bounce for the time being. Engagement occurring up here. Looks like Yurilove's been saving for 2 ME109s. These are the G0s, and that's going to be 2 Hurricane kills. The Flak 36 was utilized on the top side. Really, really nice play to take out those 2 Hurricanes. Removes that air support. But whilst we were looking at that, the B2 did go down, and that's such a shame because if the ME109 G0s were still in the sky and able to strafe these vehicles on the ground that were already quite badly pinned, it may have just allowed that B2 to survive a little bit longer. But the recon plane was cleaned up. It seems as though Yuri in this case has just proved a point that the 1st Pancerna's A-phase aircraft are not always the best. The ME109 G0s winning out this time around. However, there isn't much of a front line left. The Ostrupen are the last line of defense, and that is not something you necessarily want to be reliant upon, especially when there is still the Cromwell 5, Stuart 5 and Staghound all alive. None of them have died yet, so the TheKnifeGuy is constantly building up his armoured forces, whilst Yurilove has lost both of his B2s in Phase A. Which means there is basically none left, which means that Yuri is now reliant on AT guns, and these AT guns are kind of not in the right place to do too much. This AT gun, this Pak 37, might be able to start to creep down so that when any vehicles move into the town they will get shot at, but whether or not a kill occurs remains to be seen. The Pak 37 here can maybe get into these trees and find a shot, but without the command it's going to be very unlikely that the first shot lands on target, and since there's so much firepower here, the Pak 37 is going to be pinned almost instantly if it doesn't. Yeah. So first shot has to hit, or it's basically not worth bringing in. It died so quickly. There's too many units here now. And the TheKnifeGuy just seems to be snowballing into this bottom side. Doesn't particularly care about his Hurricanes going down. They forced Yuri to invest into the ME109 G0s. Well, he didn't have to invest into the G0s. Honestly, probably could have got away with just investing into a couple of Flak 36s and relied upon those. But with both of the B2s dead, there's probably not much else that Yuri can invest points into anyway that can prevent this sort of attack, other than AT guns. And it looks like in Phase A, Yuri only has access to the Pak 37s and the Panzerschrecks, and the Panzerschrecks really haven't been performing throughout this game. They haven't found themselves in useful positions, and that's a real problem, because if your Panzerschrecks aren't finding kills, then you miss out on a lot of the value that they can bring to a division, especially like they only cost 30 points. So if they kill like a Cromwell 5, for example, and they get a 120 point kill, they pay themselves off 4 times over. And that's the beauty of a Panzerschreck, and that's what can make them so damn good. But if you miss out on that and they just die without finding kills, then it's actually quite an expensive unit to lose, because it replaces more versatile AT guns in your division. And that can leave you in a pretty sticky spot if they don't find those particular kills, and that's exactly what seems to be happening here. So Ostrupen are taking down the Strelzy on the bottom side. Looks like a little bit of a victory for Yurilove down there. But further up, Zuidalci not far off of pinning some Osttruppen into the town. Things aren't looking much better for Yuri. And on the top side, well, this Pack 37 did get taken out. Another Pack 37 has been brought in, but as long as that continues to miss, it is going to get pinned and taken out. So look at this group of tanks just going at it. It's even been joined by a Crusader Mark IIB. And these ME109 G0s really aren't going to be able to do too much. You got the whole crew here. Duet, Staghound, Cromwell 5, now Crusader AAs. And it's a pretty hard bunch of units to deal with. Now even 2 Hurricane Mark IVs coming in as well. They're going to look for the fight with the G0s, I'm sure. The Knife Guy doesn't really need to, since he is succeeding elsewhere on the map, and a Cromwell 6 has been brought in to this top side. That's going to be utilising its 1,200 meter range HE to smash infantry and kill fire support units. So you saw it kill a IG-18 there. It's exactly what they're useful for. Hurricane Mark IVs killing off the Osttruppen, which actually managed to destroy these Zuidalci, so that was pretty nice. But B2, it's not doing well. It's really not. Grenführer, they're not going to last long either. That B2 goes down. Best bet really for Yuri in that situation is just wait until he has at least a couple, because this is just such an impenetrable bunch of units at this moment in time. And usually I might mention a Lorraine, but like not even Lorraines would help in this game at all. It's all about those close range engagements with the B2s, and so far they really haven't done the damage they've needed to throughout this game. They require command, and they require to be more than one at a time, because what's happening is every time a B2 comes onto the field, it's being engaged like 3v1. And although a B2, if all the units are on top of each other, can actually pin down multiple units, it's more than likely going to fall in the favour of those with numbers, especially when it comes to AP vehicles. So B2, once again, going to go down. Could have probably just reversed and got out of line of sight of these other units, and then used the other B2 to get a double range close-up engagement. Even if you like drove into the town with some infantry, just trying to get in here, and then sort of utilize the close range to peek and get some kills. That's another way to do it, but it seems as though Yuri is kind of out of ideas at the moment. And the Cromwell 6, well, it did get pushed back on the top side by the Pack 37. Looks like the Pack 37 remained hidden. The Zuidalci here, they wouldn't have line of sight onto that Pack 37, so that recon's not very effective for taking that out. And so the Cromwell 6 probably got caught out in the process. Staghound pushing very aggressively onto the B2. Track Will Destroy is going to mean that's a sitting duck. Another B2 on its way. Again, one by one. These B2s are falling down. That one's been bailed out. And, well, Yuri's infantry isn't faring much better. The Grenadiers here and the Italian infantry suffering to the Strelzy that are entrenched in the town. So it's a very difficult position for Yuri, but he hasn't helped himself by losing those B2s one by one. Best bet on this main road right now is just pull in an 88 with some command and just unload it at the 1,000 meter range, or like just before the 1,000 meter range, so that unloads, aims, fires, potentially gets kills, and maybe you could start finding some more sort of damage from there. Just some more ground. Hurricane Mark IV, that's gone down. G0s are winning the day today. The Flak 36 forced back the Hurricane Mark IV. Now we're going to see the G0 coming on to this Hurricane Mark IV again. Does manage to make it fall back. Should be able to get on the tail. However, the Crusader AA Mark IIB will be able to force that ME109 G0 back. So there goes the B2. The second B2 has come in. Not long until that one's pinned or taken out as well. Staghound did go for the fast move, gets taken out. At close range, that B2 does have some accuracy. Certainly utilised it in that case, but with 1,400 points on the score for the Knife Guy, he certainly seemed to have wrapped this one up quite nicely. Cromwell 4 pushing aggressively on the top side kills the AA. Chelsea do find and have started engaging the Pack 37. Cromwell 5 is going to be looking for a quick engagement there. A bit dangerous, honestly, for the Knife Guy, especially considering that actually hit. The Knife Guy's lucky that Cromwell 5's still alive, but either way, very solid position for the Knife Guy to be in. Has found his way into Yurilove's town, and that is just basically game over from here. Just losing like so many of these B2s has just left him in such a tough position. And this one's now being forced back. It is being approached by the Cromwell 5 and the Staghound, which are trying to find shots on. The only way that the Knife Guy could really lose this is if he starts engaging his tanks one by one. But the Sherman 5 can basically shrug off the B2 at this range, so doesn't really have to worry too much. Stuart 5 did go down, but there's just too much firepower here. +3 on the clock, 4 minutes left until Yurilove is defeated. Props to Yuri for fighting back, but I'm not sure there's any amount of B2s really at this point that can get the job done due to the Sherman 5 now being on the field. It's more reliant on those 88s that I mentioned, or even a Pack 40. Might be able to get the job done, but not enough to win, at least. But definitely to sort of get some points back on the KD against the Knife Guy. Top side is completely cleaned up now, so Cromwell 5, accompanied by a couple of infantry, can just make some ground up there. And well, since the reinforcement point comes in on this road, there isn't going to be much chance for Yurilove to defend that top side, so there's plenty of free ground to be made there, just to end the game that little bit quicker. +4 now. Befell Panzer 35 coming in on the bottom side to support the Pioneers and the Osttruppen. But it doesn't look like these Pioneers are having a great time, being pinned by the M5 and Dragoni. As long as these units are micro properly, there's no reason why the Pioneer should ever really land a grenade on target. So looks like the Knife Guy is doing well to avoid that at the moment. But here comes the Hurricane Mark 4 with the rocket strike onto the B2. Also the Hurricane Mark 4 with the bombs, and a standard Hurricane Mark 4 with the Hispanos. All going to be used. Me109G0 going to try and get onto the back of the bomber. Might be able to find the kill. Doesn't quite manage to. Crusader AA Mark 2B saving the day. Does seem, however, that the other fighter will be going down unless the G0 overshoots. No, it will not. Hurricane goes down, and the air engagements, honestly, for Yuri have actually been pretty damn good. It's just a shame that that can't translate to ground support in order to prevent these forces from advancing. It can obviously lead to a HS-129B1, maybe, but it doesn't seem like Yurilove's brought one of those in yet. Dragoni on the bottom side, they managed to kill the Befell Panzer 35S that came in, but I'm pretty sure Yuri is running out of steam completely here. B2 and Panzer B2, they will suffer at this range. And now 1 minute and 20 seconds left on the clock. Yuri just playing this out for the sake of it at this point. Arda 1. That could do some damage if it's utilized at the maximum range. Currently it's driving into 1,000 meter range. But after what was quite a strong first game, I think Yurilove definitely suffered utilizing the 716th into the first Pancerna. 716th, a very odd decision for division in a competitive tournament. I think it works relatively well in like a 2v2 on certain maps, but not like solo necessarily, because the fire support weapons are quite expensive and can be countered quite easily by either artillery or just strong fire support vehicles. So either tanks with strong front armor in phase A, or just like tanks with HE value and 1200 meter range in phase A. So it's quite easy to counter their units in general, and that's something that the Knife Guy's done very well. Like, this armor ball can just run through like enemy AT guns so damn easy, and also the B2s if they engage at a decent range. But that's pretty much it. The Flampanzer B2 going down at the end there. And after 20 minutes and 27 seconds, the Knife Guy gets one back onto Yuri, making this a 1-1 between the two. 1,565 kills to the Knife Guy to 855 losses. So I went over a lot of it early on about the armor sort of being a strong counter just in general to Yuri. The Stuart 5 did manage to pick up that kill onto the B2 early on. It just was stressed by trying to take a 3v1 engagement, and I don't think that the B2s were really managed very well. Getting them up sort of behind sort of tree lines and behind buildings so that you can poke them out and engage at close range is much more ideal in this scenario with some command nearby, because then you get 2-star Flampanzer B2s that can maybe do some damage. Whereas if you engage at the longer range, you give the advantage to your opponent because they have higher AP, and your AP is not enough to necessarily penetrate the armor. So like, for example, a Panzer B2, 8 AP versus like Cromwell 5, 7 armor at max range, very low penetration chance, and that's something you can't really try and rely on. I feel like often Steel Division is called out for like RNG, but I think it's more a case of managing the chances rather than actually relying on, you know, RNG in general. You sort of have got to take a tank engagement and look at it and be like, if I put my tank in this position, will it die easily or will it not? And basically, what's the chances I will kill their tank and what's the chances they will kill mine? And based on those sort of that knowledge and those sort of statistics, you make the decision whether or not it's worth having a go. And if you have like multiple tanks, then you sort of obviously up your chances quite a lot. And that's something that I think the Knife Guy really relied a lot upon, whilst Yuri allowed those B2s to die one by one in sort of miscalculated engagements. Now, what was quite well calculated for Yuri on the side of his game plan was taking out those Hurricanes, like bringing in the Flak 36, baiting the Hurricane Mach 4 engagement over the top, and then just like shooting down all those fighters was actually really smart to watch. But it's just a shame that his ground forces really fell apart. So ME109 G0s, I don't think I've ever seen G0s really get that much value, and Yurilove really making them shine here was very nice to see. But the rest of his units really suffered throughout the game, and yeah, the B2s just needed to be managed a lot better in order to counter the ground forces. And that's pretty much it. So yeah, 1-1 between these two guys. Really nice game from Yuri in the first one. But that is all from me. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.